Hi, and welcome back to Boss Wife. I'm your host, Ebony. Here is where you will get your motivation for the week. Here is where you will get the tools and tips to learn how to play, laugh, and live hard, unapologetically. Here is where you will learn how to erase the lines of the box because you realize you cannot be contained. Here is where you will learn how to show up for yourself. Here is where the most powerful transition will begin in your life. Welcome to Boss Wife. Okay, guys, I am back. Thank you guys for tuning in so much tonight. I have a special guest with me here tonight, Dr. Cheryl K. Randolph. I'm so excited. I hope you guys have put the kids to bed. Everybody's waiting to hear, anticipating. If you're studying, doing dishes, make sure you cut the mics up loud so that you don't miss a moment of this. So, Dr. Randolph, it is a pleasure to be here with you on tonight. I invited you here because your story has touched me so much in so many different ways. I can't even begin to imagine and start telling you about how many different ways you've touched my life. So I don't want to get into everything because we'll be here all night. So the topic of our podcast tonight is empowered balance. And I actually came up with my topic before I even knew about She, which is your girls program.
Yes.
And also you have a book out. So the name of your book is Life Happens, Live Anyway. And then you also have a song out that is Live Anyway, which I heard, and it is beautiful. It is so beautiful. I listened to it all day today. So, and then you're a motivational speaker, you are a pastor, you are a mom, among all things, and you are also a life coach. So this is all amazing, so amazing. So this is the main reason why I invited you out tonight, because I wanted to hear your journey. I wanted to hear about your journey as being a mother and continuing to hold on to your desires and continuing to hold on to your aspirations. So my first question tonight will be, it's my own personal question. So before, we get into the listeners, but my question for you tonight is, what is your advice to me as a public figure or a leader in the community as to how to not be as transparent, or is it okay to be very transparent? Because God takes us through so many things in our lives to help other people. It's not just for us. And sometimes we feel like, God, why me? And we have to realize, because it's not about you, because it wasn't about Christ when he went through everything that he went through. So tell me, give me some feedback on how you would encourage me how not to be not shy or bashful, but how to be, or is it okay to be transparent?
Absolutely. First of all, let me say thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I am honored tonight. I always say, anytime somebody shares their platform with you, that is such a privilege. So thank you so very, very much. Now, yes, I wear many hats, and I am so grateful to God that he's allowed me to just dabble, I like to say, in several areas. And transparency is a challenge. And for anyone who has read my book knows that it is a picture. I call it a tell some. It's not a tell all, but it's a tell some. And it is exposing a lot of my private life to the public. And especially as African American culture, usually we don't talk about our stuff. We leave our things at home. They say what happens at home stays at home. But I love what you said in the question that our journey is not about us.
Right.
It's about the call that's on our lives. It's about the assignment that God has for us. And so, to be honest, I struggled with it at first. I'm like, Lord, are you sure you want me to tell this? I don't know if the people are ready. Because again, of that just being raised to just keep things at home. But I knew that it would be a blessing to so many people because I wanted people to identify and to say, that's me.
Right.
Oh, okay, that was my story.
Right.
Oh my goodness, I'm going through this. And then to be able to reflect on, but when I see her, she's smiling. When I talk to her, she's encouraging me to go, to the next place in life. And so if they could make that connection to say, if she did it, I can do it.
Right.
So I think you have to know what to tell.
Right.
Because in that I prayed and said, okay, Lord, how much of my story do I need to share? Because sometimes, people are, if you're not careful, you'll just start talking and you'll start spilling, and everything you spill, people don't have the capacity to handle.
That's true.
So you want your story to work for you,
right,
and not against you.
Right.
And so I always encourage everybody to be authentic, but you don't have to disclose everything.
Right.
But I promise you, God will use a piece of your story, because we're living in this age now. People want to know the real deal.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if you're saying that I'm going to make it, how do you know I'm going to make it?
Right.
But when I can share an experience and they say, okay, you really do know something about go through, I'm like, yeah, a little bit. And if God did it for me and he has no respect of person, he will do that for you. So I encourage people, don't be afraid to tell your story, but use wisdom with telling your story.
That's true.
Make sure your story lands in the right place. What is the reason for telling your story? If it is to help, if it is to provide information, to push somebody through a journey or through their storm to their next place, then absolutely. So I always tell people, wake up your discernment. That discernment will tell you, okay, you can put that out there. Or the other, and if you feel like you shouldn't share something, hold that until the right time.
Right. I totally agree. That was awesome. Thank you so much for that advice. I was dealing with that, and God told me that some things are for that cap corner, just for that cozy corner.
Absolutely.
Not for just the public. Every story, you're right, everything that you've gone through isn't for everybody, because everybody can't deal with everything that you've gone through.
Absolutely.
So I thank you so much for that. So my next question is, when was that aha moment when you told yourself, this is it? The moment you felt your personal cup filling up and you were ready to pour it back into that next young woman or the next young man, and the moment that you said, okay, God, let me run tell this. I want to go tell this. When was that aha moment for you?
I remember very clearly, I was talking to a young lady, and she was sharing her story, and I believe I said a phrase like, I understand, I get it. And she looked at me and she said, you have no clue the things that I'm going through. Sometimes I look at you and wish I had your life. And I told her, I said, be careful what you wish for. I said, because every go through doesn't always look the same. I said, so there are plenty of stories behind people's glory. And so at that moment, I heard God say, it's time.
Wow.
And so, sometimes when we don't want to yield to that, we say, time for what?
Right.
and I can sweetly hear God say, you know what I'm talking about. And I said, but Lord, that's scary, because it puts you in a place of being vulnerable.
It does.
But here is where I live. I am more afraid not to do what he tells me to do than I am of the consequences or the judgments or the comments.
Right.
And so when you get to that place to when you know what God told you to do, and sometimes I know people struggle with the clarity of that, because people oftentimes say, I wish God would just speak in this audible voice. Or I wish, he would just point right and I'd know where to go.
Right.
We have to learn to develop how to hear God's voice.
True.
Sometimes it's when you flip a page and your eyes fall on a particular phrase. Sometimes it's in a commercial. I mean, God has spoken to me through commercials. And I'm like, I like that commercial. He was like, but there's a message I'm trying to get through to you. So just developing a sensitivity to that. And then when he tells you to go, know that God has your front covered and he has your back.
Right.
And when you know that, you stop being afraid of things and people. And you say, God, if this is going to help somebody make it through, make from A to B, because I've had people tell me since I've written this book, people have called me and cried. People have told me, you have helped save my marriage. People have told me we've been able now to have critical conversation. Wow. People have said, I can go one more day now. And I cry and I say, God, this is doing what you told me it would do. He said, so think if you had not obeyed.
Right.
think if you had not had the courage to step out and do it. So, does it cost you? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Will you be worried? I'll be honest and share. The day it dropped, I was in the bed. I was like, oh my God. People now have an insight to my life. And the phones would start ringing. I was like, I'm not talking to anybody. I don't want to hear it. And so it's natural for you to be nervous or you to be a little afraid when you step into what God tells you to do. Because here's the thing I know. God does not always deal in comfort.
Nope.
He will push you to the level of being very uncomfortable.
That's true.
I like to say it like this. Comfort is an enemy to your destiny. Because comfort keeps you satisfied and it keeps you from not wanting to be challenged.
Right.
But when you step outside of that, then you fall into the scripture of eyes have not seen. Ears have not heard.
That's
the
right.
things that God has prepared for them that love him. And I said, oh my goodness, Lord, you're doing just what you said. He said, I have a habit of doing that. I'm good at doing what I say. So it's if you trust him. At the end of the day, it's just trusting him. So when I heard that from other people, I knew there was a need.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like that supply and demand.
That's
when
right.
you know that there's a need for it and you have it, you put it out there so that you can meet the masses. Because again, it's not my story.
Right.
It's God's story that he worked through me.
That's right.
And so my goal is always to encourage people. I don't care what life throws at you. And it will throw some major blows.
Right.
But we have everything we need on the inside of us
Right.
to live anyway.
You're right.
And knowing that I encourage somebody to do that, it's worth every tear. It's worth every late night. It's worth everything that I went through personally. Because to even have that picture of God will keep your mind in perfect peace. God will hold you together because he has destiny for you. And no matter what you go through, God has not changed his mind. That's the thing he rehearsed in my spirit all the time. I haven't changed my mind.
Wow.
I know the thoughts and the plans I have for you.
Right.
You know what? It's still going to happen. And sometimes we think when our life is fractured and broken that God can't use us in spite of. He said, I still have plans to use you. It may not look the way you think it was going to look, but I'm going to do that. So as long as I know he's good, I'm good.
Right.
As long as God is good. That's a motto people need to do. As long as God is good, you ought to say, I'm good.
I know that's right.
So you just know when you know. And don't be afraid to take the leap.
Right.
And watch God be God.
That's right. That's all you gotta do is sit back and watch.
And just
He'll
watch
take
him.
care of you every time.
Absolutely, because we take on God's responsibility. God said, I got this. I can handle this. I just need your willingness. I just need you to participate. And I will roll out the plan. So if we just, take ourselves from under God's responsibility, just do our part and prepare to be amazed by God.
Wow, that's awesome. You're right. That's awesome. So at what age were your children when you said, okay, I'm going to take on this entrepreneurship. I'm going to take on I'm going to take God's journey for me, but and still, in raising your kids, because you were also a single mom at this point, right?
Absolutely. I've been a single mother for, let's say, 8-9 years.
Right.
And so I've always been involved in ministry. I am very career oriented. So my children have always known a working mom. I took a minute, maybe I think when my son was born, but I was right back at it. At that time I was a principal of a school and a co-pastor at a church. And so I discovered this, that when I am walking in my fullness, when I am being fulfilled, I pass fulfilled to my children.
Right.
Because sometimes we say, well, I just need to stay home, or I don't need to be gone so much. And God will give you wisdom on how to do that. I incorporated my children into my work career. Matter of fact, I love seeing with your son helping you, with what God has placed on your heart to do. There's a way you can involve your family, but you get to demonstrate to them, this is what fulfilling your kingdom assignment looks like. You end up putting that in them, because here's what's bad. If you're home with them, but you're miserable, not because of them, but because you're not doing what you know you should be doing, then your time is not as fruitful. But my children have learned to eat on the go, do homework on the go. They would be in the car telling me, we seat, like in the back seat was a ride. They knew how to go to my school and interact with people, teachers and kids. And so it really helped them on their journey when I look at them now, and they know how to communicate, and they know how to deal with a plethora of people. They know how to move quickly and do things. All of that was a benefit of me walking in my call and in my journey. So I encourage women to, just surrender to your call. I go back to saying, stop taking all the responsibility. God has a plan and has it worked out. They used to sing an old song and say, why are you trying to figure it out? He's already worked it out. And so when we just yield to him and the plan that he has, because we act like God didn't know we were going to have kids. We like, Lord, I have children. He was like, I believe I know that. And so I put you in a place to where you can handle it all. And sometimes I'm careful about using the word balance because it's hard to really balance. Balance means that everything is at the same level. But you have to know how to differentiate. You have to know when to give a little bit more attention. Some things, are your top 5, and then other things can wait.
That's right.
If I know my children's homework needs to be done, but I know there's laundry, I'm like, homework, laundry. We're going to get the homework done, and then we're going to go to the closet and get the other things, and laundry may have to move to the next one. So you learn how to work in an even pattern, or how to, navigate through it. But when your children see you doing that, again, it teaches them. I believe we're their first teachers.
That's right.
I believe that we're their models. And when they hear you laughing, when they see you making arrangements, when they hear you calling and setting up interviews and doing that, it pushes them even to a level of being proud of what they're in the middle of. It builds and awakens creativity even in them. So I believe my children are better because I walked out my assignments. Because I don't believe God just has an assignment for you. You have assignments. So in every level of life, it was like, okay, now my mom's a teacher. Now my mom's a principal. Okay, my mom's a principal and a business owner. Okay, now my mama is a director now. And now she, has her own mentoring program. And it's just like, oh my goodness, all of these things. But it shows them that we are multifaceted and that we can do whatever God has called us to do. Because sometimes all of those things don't always happen at the same time. It's kind of, you give birth to one, you mature it, and then that's doing what it's doing, and then you move on to the next thing, and then sometimes you have several things. But I want to demonstrate to them, that you can step in that and be successful, and you give it 100%, and know when it's time to rest. So our rest time was just as important as our working time.
That's right.
So I tried to teach them that as well. Now, I didn't do too good at that at the beginning. So I had to learn it. Especially you get my book, I had to learn about that self-care. I had to work my way into it. But I want to demonstrate that to them as well. You know what? And I heard a preacher say today, which was so profound. He was saying, he was talking to his son. And he said, I hope that I have been a good model for you. I hope that I have shown you how to work well, how to operate in excellence, how to do the things you're called to do. He said, and my prayer is that my ceiling becomes your floor.
Wow.
I want to work and build this ceiling so that you have something to step on and then build. I think that's the joy of us doing our assignment, is that we can build things for our children. And just maybe our ceiling will be their floor. And they build even higher. So I don't think we have that guilt. I think we say, okay, God, how do I navigate through all that you've placed at my hands, because it's all a privilege, and how do I do it well? And that's always been a prayer of mine with everything I would do. I'd even have family discussions and say, here's what we're getting ready to do. Here's what mom is wanting to do. And you find your children will be your biggest cheerleader. You can do it, mom. Mom, let's go. What do we need to do? How do we need to work it? And that would just bless my life, because I would tell my children, we're a package deal. We're in this together. So they know they're cheering for me. I'm cheering for them when they step into their careers and the different avenues that they have. So it's kind of just like this give and take. There's some things I learned to say no to when people ask, and I said, I'm sorry, because tonight is family night, or tonight my son has a game, or tonight my daughter has a production. And so you keep your things in the proper order. And I think that's the caveat to it all. Keep it in the proper order. I wanted to make sure that my children never felt like they had to be the sacrificial lamb for the ministry, or for my job, or for that. They saw themselves as a part of the vision, as a part of the call. So when you include them, when you have conversation, You can do all that God calls you to do, and no guilt included.
Amen. Amen. I accept that. One of my challenges right now is let me just say this. I started out as a stay-at-home mom, and I took pride in that because I felt like, when we were growing up, we had real grandmothers back then.
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody went to a daycare.
No.
You went to grandmama's house or you went to auntie house. Nobody was in a daycare. Nobody else was taking care of our children.
Absolutely,
but us.
We did.
So yeah, we did. So I felt like that was my gift back to my kids, because my grandmother, I'm actually from Memphis, so I didn't have my grandmother here, but she got to keep them, a little bit before she passed away. But I felt like I owed them that because that's what we had, So, and my husband was all for it. He wanted me to stay at home, but then I had that pressure of what you were talking about, because I wasn't depressed or sad or upset because I was at home with them. I just knew I was supposed to be doing something else, So when I got that last baby into school, I went back to school, and got my degree as an MA, and then I started on other things, and then I kept pausing a little bit here and there because of my kids, because they're stair steps though, so they weren't spread it out at all. My kids are 12, 13, 14, and 15. So
wow, super mom! I love it. Yes.
Yeah, those first two, they're like the same age for like 2 or 3 months at a time. So yeah, so it wasn't quite easy for me to do a lot of stuff, but I did it. So now that they're all in middle school and a few in high school, I'm venturing out. I'm walking in my journey. I'm doing what God has called me to do. So I have my friends call me fireworks. They're gonna laugh when they hear this. They call me fireworks because I always got things going on. I tell them all the time, I'm working on this, or I'm working on this. And a lot of them help me in a lot of my business. I have a modeling agency that I just opened up here in Chattanooga.
Awesome.
Yeah, and
we
so I'm
celebrate
super excited about that.
Yes.
So super excited about that. So a lot of them are helping me there on my staff. And so they're like, okay, let's just get this down first, before you go to something else. And I'm like, no, y'all just work on that. Let me move on, And then we'll come back and we'll meet, and they'll be like, oh, you wanted us to do this? And I'm like, yeah, once I throw something out, I moved on.
That's that creative thinking. We're always thinking. I always tell the people around me, I say it's never like, okay, what now? It's always what's next.
Right. What's next?
Because you complete what you're starting, but you're always thinking of what's next. Here's what I love about your journey. You understood the power of being home first. See, everybody's journey is different. That's why I need people to know what their journey is. Because being a stay-home mom is the hardest job on the planet. I salute every stay-home mother. So everybody's journey is different. Some may be the stay-home. Some may be to be a career person. Some may be, starting that new business. It's just knowing what's best for you. Then it's knowing when it's time to shift. Okay, I did that. Right. And then God will put that passion in your heart, and it's next. But here's what I love. He prepares every generation for what that generation needs.
That's right.
And so back in our day a lot, because that's what was, you didn't work a lot out of the home. That was what was set for that generation.
Right.
Well, now you have so many working moms. You have a lot of single moms that have to work. So God gives us villages.
That's
right. I always love to call them the village people.
Yep.
That God will put as a part of your team to help you walk the vision out.
Right.
And so care is always important, but it may just look different. It may not be the grandmama caring.
Right.
It may be a play grandmama you picked up along the way.
Right.
It may be some play aunties, and uncles that help with children.
Yeah.
And so God is so faithful in giving what is needed for the vision. I keep going, and I just keep feeling to say that sometimes we take on, I don't know how I'm going to get this done. God said that makes you just right for what I called you to.
Right.
Because you don't have to know how you're going to get it done. If you give me the yes first,
right.
I will walk you into the plan that's already been said. He said, I know the thoughts and the plans I have for you.
That's right.
My plans are not to harm you. They're to prosper you and take you to an expected end. I wouldn't put a burning on the inside of you that I never meant for you to carry out.
Wow.
So I'll let you do that effectively, and nobody gets harmed in the process. When I look at it, and the people say, you have raised these amazing children, and first I'm like, honey, this was God's doing. But I look back and I say, you know what, God, we did it. We did this. And without anything going lacking. Adjustments needing to be made?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Because the name of the game is flexibility and adjustment.
That's right.
If you can adjust and you are flexible, you win.
It worked every time.
So when you know that and be like, sometimes things are not going to go the way I thought they would go, but God has a plan. I'm telling you, that's why the Bible teaches us to rest in Him. There's such power in resting in Him. And resting doesn't always mean sleeping in Him. It means giving up and just saying, have your way.
That's right.
Okay, download to me how this needs to go, and I'm going to upload a yes.
There you go.
We just have to get that straight. You download and I'm upload. Here we go. And when we do that, there becomes a method to the madness.
That's right.
And people will look and say, how in the world? You know without a shadow of a doubt, it was nobody but God.
Right.
And you know that you were willing to say, okay, God, because you have the plan. You know how this works.
Yep.
I'll just follow you. When we were kids, we played follow the leader.
We did.
All the time. We'd be like, I'm the leader, I'm the leader. And wherever they went, if they trampled through the mud, we trampled through the mud. Yep. If they ducked and missed the limb on the tree, we ducked and did that. Because we were into following the leader. It's amazing how that becomes so difficult for us now as adults. When we hear God's voice and it's hard to follow the leader, the best leader ever.
Right.
The one who will not leave you nor forsake you or drop you to the side. He's the best leader. He's already been there. He rewinds and he comes back to our present. So he already knows what lies ahead. Why not follow the one that knows? If we could just go back and be like a child.
That's right.
And follow the leader.
Yep.
Things come into play.
You're right.
So I applaud what you're doing. I just think that is phenomenal. And God won't leave anything undone.
Right.
As long as we stay in alignment. I know if I said that, if my church member was listening, they'd be saying, say alignment, because that's what I say. Everybody say alignment. If we get in alignment with the plan of God, we will see what He says.
Wow.
We will see what He said, because that's all we want at the end. God, I just want to see what you're saying. You're saying this to me. I want to see it. He said, get in alignment. You'll see what I said.
Right. That's powerful. I just heard that this week, not what you just said, but I heard that in my studying and everything that I've been doing for my businesses, someone said that it's okay to prioritize, especially when you have multiple things that you're doing.
Absolutely.
Multiple strains of income, or not income, but multiple strains of jobs or whatever we're doing, whatever we want to put a name to.
Different passions
and
callings.
Right.
Absolutely.
So they were like, it's okay to prioritize, and then it's also okay, and I've never heard this, it's also okay to reprioritize. And I was like, what? Because today, podcasting. But next week, I'm back onto my modeling studio. And, then the week after that, I got something else going on. So I'm like, I never realized, and we do it all the time as mothers.
We do.
We do it all the time as mothers. Some days we might have that one baby that's sick, or they need this certain attention, and they just need that
shift
kind of
to that.
Shift.
Absolutely.
That's right. And then your whole day shifts to that. And then the next day, the next child got something, or you have something going on at work, or your husband. For those who are married, they have things going on. So every family and everybody's life and everybody's journeys is different. So I just wanted my listeners to hear that it's okay to reprioritize.
Absolutely.
Because just because we make this one thing our priority doesn't mean that tomorrow it's going to be the same priority.
Because that's today. He said take care of today.
Right.
Because tomorrow will take care of itself.
Right.
So if we can get that, we need to understand that priority lists are not written in permanent marker.
What? Exactly.
Okay, that's why it's an erase on it, and you just erase it. Okay, this is for today.
Right.
Now tomorrow, some of those same things may make the list. Some of them may be in the same order, but there may be a shift, and be okay with that. So it's not so much the order. It's just knowing what your priorities are.
Right.
That my priority is for married women, my husband, my family. It's my business, making sure our finances good. So know what your priorities are, and then shift them as needed.
Right.
And be, as you said, okay with that.
Yep.
Because sometimes we try to be too perfect for our own good.
That's true.
That we want everything to just be,
the perfectionist.
that it need to be, And I'm like, you know what? We're not perfect.
No, we're not.
And some days it's not going to go the way we want. And that's okay. Oftentimes when I'm teaching my clients as a coach, one of the main things I tell them to tell themselves, it's okay.
It's okay.
I'm okay, and it's okay.
Right.
And they're just like, I said, oh yeah, that's so profound. Now we're going to learn some other things that you'll be like, what? But you need to first develop saying, I'm okay, and it's okay.
I do that every time I fall off my diet.
Absolutely. I'll be like, I'm okay. This every Monday for me. by Monday evening. I start every Monday, and by Monday evening, I'm like, it's okay.
I'll try again tomorrow. We'll try again tomorrow.
Absolutely. Mash the button. We have a reset, and we're good.
That's right. That's right. So, was there ever a moment in your journey where you felt like turning around, or you felt like your journey wasn't worth the interruption in your kids' lives?
You want to know how many moments?
Yes.
There were several moments that I'm like, I'm done with this. Or this is too much.
Right.
I be sitting on the floor crisscross applesauce. I'm tired, Lord. But then I learned to pick myself up. You know, I love the passage where David says he encourages himself. And we have to develop the ability to encourage ourselves. And to be like, okay, what is it that you're going for? What is the goal? And then I rattle that off. You know, I want my children to be in a better place. I want to walk out the plan God has for my life. I want to be able to bless the lives of people. So I go back and I do that list. And I'm like, okay, so if you don't do what you're doing, those things are not going to happen. I'm like, okay, right. So, do you feel like you have what you need? See, I have conversations with myself. Now, I don't answer. I try not to answer too much so people think it's a little strange. But I'm like, you know, because who can better encourage you than you?
That's right.
Because you know how you feel.
That's right.
You know what you're dealing with. So I have to break it down to myself. And then I say, you know what? I can do this. I do have the ability. Tired does not equate ineffective. Does not mean that you are not sufficient. It just means you're human and you tired.
Your body's tired.
You know, sometimes you need to just take a nap. You know, I always go to when I think it was Elijah or Elisha, and you know they had the whole battle with Jezebel and all of that. And he had just been on the mountain. He was talking about, okay, God is great, and just had this wonderful experience with God. Well, then Jezebel says she's going to kill him, and then he runs away, and now he's hiding in caves and all of that. And God appears to him, and he said, "What are you doing here?" And God feeds him, and he tells him to go sleep. Sometimes we just need to eat and take a nap.
That's a good word.
Sometimes we think it's huge. Oh, it's got to be. Sometimes you just need to eat and take a nap.
Right.
And when you come to yourself and wake back up, things look a little brighter. They look a little better. You now have energy to get back on path. So it's the easy things sometimes. Sometimes we make life very complicated. You know, that it must be an answer that just really comes in an audible voice from God. You need a nap. Don't we tell children that when they're fussy and they're this? They say, look, you're dry, you know, you clean, you have your favorite toy, you need a nap.
Yep, you need a nap.
That still works for adults as well. Sometimes when life gets a little heavy and we are stressed and we're pulled, sometimes you just need a nap in God. Yep. You just need to rest so you can refocus. So don't be hard on yourself because you feel like giving up, because anybody that succeeds felt like giving up hundreds and thousands of times. And it doesn't matter how many times you fall. Well, only what really counts is just the one time you get back up. Right. That you just refuse to stay there. So falling is a part of my nature. Number one, human, I'm clumsy. So naturally, it's a part of my nature. And then sometimes you just fall or you're just tired. But just tell yourself, okay, I've earned this moment. I'm good.
That's true.
But I'm going to get up and we're going to keep moving. And I'm okay.
Yep, that's right. That's right. So did you... tell us how you felt like you chose your path, or how you felt like God chose you for your path or your destiny.
You know, I grew up in a pastor's home. So my mother and father were pastors in church. So church has always been a part of my life. And I've always been talkative. I love to talk. And I was kind of shy and talk. So I kind of lived in duality a lot. You know, I'd kind of be real quiet. If you looked at me too long, I'd start crying. But then I'd be the one that was always, hello, how are you? So I had this desire to just do something with people. I was blessed and fortunate to be able to sing, and I thought that singing was going to take me where I needed to go, but God used singing as an introduction to what he was calling me to do. Wow. So my singing would connect me to different people, different organizations, different things, and then I'd find myself saying things that I didn't even know I knew. So I would be talking, and I would have this one in the room, and they say, oh, come and listen and do. So I knew somehow that I was going to be talking and something with people. And so I would sing, and in churches, and when I would sing in church, I would then start just exhorting and just talking to people. Say, "Oh, you a preacher?" I was like, I am not. As you can tell, I grew with you. My daughter's favorite character used to be Scooby-Doo.
Oh.
I have adopted Scooby-Doo in everything I do. So every time I'm like, right. So shout out to Sheridan from Little Bitty, who is now 22. But Scooby just lived with us in our house for like years. So everybody does the Scooby-Doo. So I would do that, and I was like, I don't know, because, it was always not a female area to be a preacher, to be a pastor. And I was like, I don't know about that, Lord.
Right.
I said, your girl good with singing, we fine. But I'm telling you, there was just an unrest, and it wouldn't let me go. And I went through processes and all of that, singing and then speaking and, being but God said, I put pastoring in you. I put a preacher in you. And I was like, well, you might want to tell everybody else, Lord. I mean, can you tell them that that's what you called me to do, and all of that? And God said, I'll make the way plain. It's going to be fine. And so when you learn to just yield and let God work out the details, and it's going to take courage a lot of times to step into what God called you to do. I'm like you saying, with all of the things that you have a passion to do, and it took courage for you to say, okay, my kids are now good. I think I can step out into that, because everybody may not agree with your next move.
That's true.
Everybody may not agree with the call, because here's the thing, sometimes God tells you and just tell you.
Yeah, you're right.
He doesn't always tell everybody else.
That's true.
So when they say, I don't understand, I don't get it, that used to make me a little upset and frustrated.
I have same feelings.
But God said that you are asking people to handle a vision that they have no capacity for.
Wow. Okay.
He said, I gave it to you. That doesn't make them bad people.
That's true.
But it means they can't see. When they're telling you, I don't get it or I don't see it, they're being honest with you. They don't.
Right.
And you need to be okay with that.
Right.
Because they're serving at that place of that capacity.
That's true.
But I'm going to bring people into your life that will see what you're saying. And you need them both. And so I'm like, okay, God, okay. He said, but for a while, it's just going to be a lonely path. And I need you to walk it.
Wow.
And so I would walk it, and I'd cry, and I'd walk it. And I stayed faithful to what I was in at the time. So I would do that, just kept singing, and I kept speaking, and I kept helping. And then God began to bring me in front of people, and people started validating the call on my life. In places where being a preacher, quote, was not popular, because they would call it evangelist or missionary, the softer words. And so, people started saying, I don't care what people say, you a preacher. And it started being from people that others could receive it from. So when you get the right person to validate you, and that's how God orchestrates things. He's just like, okay, stop worrying about all the other stuff. I'm trying to get your yes. You work on that part. Your part is yes. And to mean it, to move beyond just a verbal yes to an action yes. And when you do that, see won't I? That's one of my favorite passages, and it's in Malachi, and it's tied to our giving of our tithe and giving of our, and then he said, see won't I open the windows of heaven? But God said, tie that see won't I to everything else. See won't I bring you before men? See won't I validate your ministry? See won't I place you in the position that I've called you to? See won't I do it? If you do your part, prove me.
Right.
Prove me now. That's what the word said. God said, come on, I can handle it. Prove me.
Right.
Allow me to be God. And when you do that, then you get to that. Because we love that scripture, and I said it earlier, eyes have not seen, but it's a journey to eyes have not seen, ears have not heard all the things I have prepared for you.
That's right.
That doesn't just happen right here. When he says, okay, I'm just like, oh, okay. He said, I want to show you great things, but that means it's a great path.
That's true.
You have to walk out process in order to get promise. And so when I stopped being, because I dealt with feeling insecure. I dealt with, God, they're not going to receive me. I can't do that. He's just like, oh, here we go again, Cheryl. That's how he talks to me. I'm like, yes, Lord, we back here. But to just say, and became confident in what he called me to do. I started speaking to myself on my way to what I needed to do. You got this. Greater is he that's within you than he that's within the world. And I humbly walked a great path. Wow. And just said, okay, and started watching God open this and open that, and that person saying this and that person saying that, and I get home and high five God, you bad, pow, just high fiving here. He was like, see this? I'm like, yes, Lord, okay. And that doesn't mean every time it was like that.
That's true.
But he would give you yay moment,
Yep.
and say, okay, get back on track because we got to finish the journey.
Right.
And then it'll be a couple of, but then you get another yay. So it's a process.
It is.
But God is not slack concerning his promises.
True.
If he said it, he has every intention of bringing it to pass.
That's right. You're right.
We just have to trust him even when we can't trace him.
Right.
Just to know what he said. And here's the thing I love about God. You know, if you miss him while trying to know it's him, he has grace and mercy.
Wow.
His grace is sufficient. Because sometimes we're too afraid to try because we're too afraid to fail.
You're right. That's true.
And you have to be courageous enough to try and be okay if you fail. Because he has grace for that. You know, they used to say when everybody was getting their phones and everybody was getting apps, and whatever you needed, they always said there's an app for
There's
that.
an app for
I
it.
adopted and said there's grace for that.
That's right. There
You
you go.
messed that up, there's grace for that.
Right.
And so his grace is present.
Yeah.
And when we know that, we'll stop living in fear.
Yeah.
And we'll step out like Peter said, God, if you say come, I'm coming. And he said, well, come on.
He did.
And he will defy gravity just so you can do what he said you can do.
Wow.
Peter had no business walking on water, but he walked anyway.
He walked anyway.
What are areas you have no business going in, but you're going to go in anyway? Because there's grace for that.
There is. And he's made a way for you already.
Absolutely.
So one thing that, and I'm trying to stay on track, but you're helping me so much. This is so powerful.
Oh, thank you. Blessings.
So
I'm
one
loving
thing that you said, a couple of things that you said actually that you didn't know you were saying. So one of my catchphrases on my podcast is, if you don't do you, then you won't be done. And
I love that. So
yeah.
when you hear it again, no, I borrowed it. Yes.
Okay. But that's true, because if we don't do who we are, it won't get done. And then that hinders other people. You know, and I don't think we realize that when you're afraid to step out, then that means that next person who's waiting on you to step out will never do what they're called to do either.
Because we're connected.
That's right.
It's almost like running a relay race, and there's somebody has the first lap and the second leg and the third leg.
But
well,
we
if
all
the first
bring it home
one,
together.
if you don't connect and get that baton in the second person's hand, they are not equipped to run their race.
That's right.
So it's like you said, if you don't do you and what you're called to do, if you don't get in a place and mind the business that God has called for you, you have not prepared, or you put the other person in a place to where they can't run their race. So this is not just for us. You said that at the beginning, and we'll keep threading that through. What we do, this race, is not just for us. It's for everybody, everything, every situation that God has connected us to. And that's why the enemy hits so hard, because he know we come in duplicates and triplicates. You know, it's not just me, but if I win, my sister win, my brother wins, that one win. And he said, if I stop you, then I stop all of that. See, our problem is we don't always see the greatness that God has placed in us.
Now that's true.
The devil knows more about our greatness sometimes than we know.
That is the truth.
So he's trying to stop what we don't even see.
You're right.
But when we get a working knowledge of the greatness that's on the inside, God empowers us then to become unstoppable. And he says, then you don't have to keep giving permission to failure and weakness and doubt. He says, stop giving permission to those things. Just be you. Just do you. Just do that which I placed at your hand and called to do. Because when you stop moving, you keep me from moving.
That's true.
And if I've got to skip over you because my will is still going to be done, I'm going to get it done. But I choose to use you. I'd rather work through you instead of in spite of you.
Right.
And when God said that, I said, wait a minute, you going to sub me out? He said, because we don't like being subbed out. Wait a minute. And the Scooby comes again. I said, wait, because God's like, I can work through you.
That's right.
Or I can move in spite of you.
That's right.
Which do you want?
That's right.
I said, I'll take work through me for 200, Alex. And when you submit and just said, okay, God, see, we don't have to have it all figured out. We just, our yes is enough. And he will order our steps. The Bible says the steps of a good man and woman are ordered by the Lord. He said, Abraham, go and I'll show you. Our going is our yes.
Right.
That we just get up and do something. Okay, Lord, now it's on you. He said, I'm good.
Right.
I just need you to do. So in this season, do you. Do what you're called to do. I love that you say that. Keep speaking that into the lives of individuals. Do what he's called you to do.
Right.
And you are enough for every assignment.
Wow, that's true.
You're enough for every assignment.
Thank you. I'll accept that from you.
Yes.
Now, that's very powerful that you said that. One thing that God gave me recently, I was telling my husband that I needed to pray because the generation that was birthed, we're all born into a curse because of the world,
Absolutely.
because of Adam and Eve. And he said the generation that was birthed, the last 2 generations, were born under a different curse. And the first thing that we all know that the enemy attacks us when they're young. Children when they're young, he tries to take their innocence as soon as he can. Yes. And so when we allow him to come into our children, and that's one of the reasons why I stayed at home, because I was afraid. And I'm a church baby and I know better. But my main reason was because I was afraid of the atmosphere that I was going to be exposing my kids to. And I felt like I needed to protect them and keep them in the perfect atmosphere, or the best atmosphere that I felt was conducive for them, until they were ready and stable enough to go out on their own. So the thing that I've been praying for now is that as women, as mothers, as nurturers, as leaders, as trainers, that we open our eyes up, because like you said, in everything that we do, we can involve our children. Yes. There's space for our children to be right there with us. We don't have to leave them, we don't have to leave them with Susie that we don't know. We don't have to leave them with Mark that we don't know, that we just started dating, or that we just met yesterday.
Talk now, say it.
We don't have to do that. We can take them with us. We don't have to be afraid. And like I said, I had stair steps, and I was joking with my in-laws yesterday because I had a double stroller. Plus, I was pregnant, and then once that one came out, I used 2 of them in that back double stroller. I had that baby in that front.
Oh, we'll make it work.
We're gonna make it work.
You better believe that.
I'm not staying at home. I got stuff to do. So, and that's just like it is in life. We got things to do, but you have to make sure that you're protecting that child, that you're making that situation, that atmosphere conducive for that child.
Because our children are our first ministry.
Yep, that's true.
Okay, so God has given them to us. We are responsible, and we are responsible to parent them, to guide them, and to cover them. And I love what you say. That's powerful. This dropping off your kids and all of that. No, that's not what God has called us to.
Right.
He says, I'll give you strategies on how to make it work.
That's right.
That's why when I went to principal meetings, my daughter was with me. I ended up having someone who would come, babysitter that I know with our family. She started traveling with us and all of that. And I'm like, oh no. They even started buying her little vice principal shirt, all of that. So she grew up in that atmosphere. And because I wanted to expose them to how the world works, but I wanted to make sure too that I see you. I wanted them to know, that mommy's here. So we would talk, we have conversation. I think it is so important, women and dads too, that you talk with your children, have conversation, have family time. I told my children, I said, I want you to always have a moment when you can remember us sitting together, us talking. I want you to remember me cheering in the stands. I want you to remember me reading a book to you at night, although my daughter keeps saying, honey, you fell asleep every time. I say, but I was there though, right? I get brownie points. She was like, yeah. So those things, you have to build those memories. And then you have to remember the power of the blood.
That's right.
You plead the blood over your children. You pray for them. Every morning, I would pray for my children and cover them. And I say, God, when I'm not there, you're there.
That's right.
So thank you that their mind is a productive mind. Thank you that they thinking on things that are pure, that are honest, that are lovely. Father, I speak against anybody that comes to rob them of destiny that they have. I speak that they are removed from my children. See, that's when we put it back in God's hand. Because, we give our children back to God.
We do.
He let us parent them. He said, but they're mine.
They're mine.
And so I say, okay, Lord, you called me to do this thing and we can't be with them 24 hours a day. I say, but I know the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. See, your first thing is you have to let the enemy know you know.
That's right.
And I would tell them, let me tell you who you're not going to have.
Right.
And I call their names out and I put them, let me let you know, devil, your girl not scared.
Right.
You not having this one or this one. I said they are covered by the blood. And those are the things we have to take responsibility back. Because if we're at home and we still not praying over them,
what's the point?
We still not helping. We just watching. Because if we're not praying and saying, God, give me wisdom, if we're not checking phones, if we're not saying there's a downtime for electronics, I don't understand people telling me, I can't have the password to my child's phone. And I pay for the phone. See, my children don't have a phone. All of my phones are on lease.
Yep.
I said I have 3 phones that are out for lease. They keep saying, Mom, don't say that. I said, no. Because I pay for those. So that means I have passwords.
Yep.
Because I'm not going to help you learn how to hide.
That's right. You're right.
I want us to put, and in training people, they laugh at church. They have my password. I'm like, okay, we all going to have accountability because I'm a single woman. I don't want you to think I'm running games either. Now, again, there's a difference in a parent relationship and a child, but I try to make sure that they understand we are open in this house. And everybody has a right to their private things.
That's true.
They're teenagers, so I'm not like in their face all the time. No, but I help you to develop self-discipline,
right.
Learning how to make good choices,
right.
That if something needs to be on display or you say, give me that you're not ashamed because that's not the behavior that you have. Those are not the habits you have or the patterns you have. So you're okay with it.
Right.
And so I think it's what we do while we're there. I can't be responsible for when I'm not, but this is what I do so that I have a good idea how things are working when I'm not there.
Right.
So that's what we are to be responsible for, to make sure that we're building good young people, that we're having conversations, that we're a part of their lives, that the phone and television are not raising them, that we are raising them,
true.
That we are parents, that we understand that some days we won't be their friend.
Yep.
I tell my children, us being friends, that's a luxury. I was called to parent you.
That's right.
And if I do it right, hopefully we all end up loving each other and want to be around each other. Yeah. So I love when they're just like, okay, I'm with you, mom, let's go. And just all of us together, I just be like, yes. I say, but we need to make it very clear, I'm your parent. And we have to go back to taking that on, that I am proud to be your parent. Yeah. I am privileged to guide you into your destiny. Yeah. And the days you don't like me, it's okay because I know you love me.
That's right.
And we are going to be good. So it's all of that. It's not so, like I said, we're not going to be able to be with them all the time.
No, we're not.
But we still need to be with them. I used to have this thing when my children were growing up, and I'd say, you're representing me.
Right.
And so they get in a car sometimes, and I'd say, how did I look today? And my son would say, how'd you look today? I don't know. You should know how you look. And I said, no, remember, you represent me. Right. So how did I look today?
Right.
And so he would understand what that is.
Right.
So then he'd start getting in the car. He said, Mama, you look so good today. I said, did I look good? They said, ooh, you look good. We did good on that test. We helped somebody today. We did that. You look good. So we developed that we are here for each other. Wow. That, you're not just representing you.
That's right.
You're representing God. You're representing the family, the name that you carry. We're all representing each other. So we should try our best to help us look good.
Right.
I said, because you don't just look good, we look good. Right. And so that just became a thing of them or whatever. If they come home and get a promotion, oh, we looked good today. I said, did we? Just establish that and building pride in your family and your name and what you represent and who you are. See, those are the things that if we get those things in place, we will watch our seed become who we saw them as, or what we saw them as from the very beginning. Wow. So we just do our work. Do your work. Yeah. She says that don't fix my life. Do your work. And take pride in that. Take joy. Being a mother is the greatest job of my life.
It is.
Nothing else compares. And I love everything that God has afforded me to do. But everybody knows those 2 little people, best accomplishment, achievement, best gift, best everything ever.
Yep.
Because I understand my priorities. They may shift in order.
Right.
But my priorities don't change.
That's right. I never preached. So we're going to have to wrap this up, Dr. Randolph, but I really appreciate everything that you instilled in me today. I've grown just sitting here.
Me too, for what you've shared. Thank you. See, we're better together.
Powerful. Yes, we are always better together. So do you have any last words, any last advice that you would give mothers, entrepreneurs, mompreneurs, leaders in the community? What would you tell us how to continue this journey with our children and our families and our priorities?
Honestly, I would say just be true to your call, true to your assignment. No, you don't have to have it all figured out. But if you just acknowledge God in all your ways, He'll direct your path.
Right.
And in it all, you can have a healthy family, a healthy career, a healthy relationship with God. Sometimes people say, I don't think you can have it all. I disagree. Right. I think in Him, you can have it all.
That's
and everybody's all is different.
That's true.
Just know yours. Don't get consumed with living somebody else's path.
Right.
Don't waste time in somebody else's lane. Just do you.
That's right.
And watch God be God.
That's
So
right.
be encouraged in that. Don't be discouraged. Don't fall off. If you have to cry, that's okay. Buy tissue and all of that. But we are better when you are good.
That's right.
We're better when you're good.
We are.
So go be great so that we can all continue to aspire to be great as well.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you
was
for having
wonderful.
me. Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
And blessings to all that you're doing.
Thank you.
Amen. I'm telling you, we will all be better for it.
Thank
so,
you.
and always know there's grace for that.
Thank you. I accept that. That's right. That's right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in on tonight. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys are empowered to go on and do your dreams, your aspirations, your goals. Don't let anything stop you. Don't let anyone tell you can't do it, because like she said, in God, we can have whatever we want. You know, I also always say, where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely.
You know, and I always, if God
totally
gives me the
agree.
will every morning,
He's
I'ma
already
take it.
made a way.
That's right. I'm going to take it. I will take it. So you guys, thank you so much. Like, share, comment. Let me know if there was something that helped you. Let me know if there's something you want me to talk about. And I love you guys, and I will see you next Tuesday.